Hey, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm hanging out with Mark Apuna, who is the president for Home Inspectors for Utah. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Honestly, the whole content that we wanted to create today was a lot of questions that we're getting, mainly from first-time home buyers. But when we held a poll for questions to ask a home inspector, we were pleasantly surprised to see a lot of home sellers as well asking questions. So we're just gonna jump in those questions, and thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me over, appreciate it.
Awesome. So one of the first questions is why a home inspection? Like, you know, everyone hears about it, but what are you doing when you go into the house? Typically you're there for 3 to 4 hours. Like, what are some of the major things that you're looking for?
Well, actually there's two main reasons for a home inspection. The first is the obvious one, just to be able to know what you're getting into. Make sure that you're not walking into a hornet's nest that's going to cost you a lot of money on top of, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a home. You're spending $1,000 a month on a payment. Last thing you want to do is find out once you get in there, been in there for a couple months, that you got to go spend 10 grand to have a sewer line repaired.
Absolutely, and that, like you mentioned, this is one of the biggest investments that people make in their life, probably the biggest. And so, yeah, you're right. You don't want to walk in there a few months later and be like, oh my gosh, I bought a lemon of a house, right?
Exactly. And then also the second and probably most important thing is if you do find something wrong with a home, which you're going to, it's just like buying a used car. It's just the magnitude of what we find. Now, if you find something that is pretty major, now you have the opportunity to have the seller make the repair. Now, with that being said, there's no guarantee that a seller is going to, because they're not required to fix anything. But at least it gives you the opportunity to ask.
Perfect, and that leads into the next question that we had, which was, what would you recommend if you're sitting there in the house and you see some problems? What would be like a major thing you'd recommend to a buyer to ask the seller to replace, and what would be something that's not such a big deal?
I don't put an opinion on that because I don't know people's backgrounds. So say I'm talking to you and I think, hey, the roof needs to be replaced. I will tell you, what I think about the roof. I'll tell you if it's in good shape. I won't tell you how long it lasts because I don't know. I'm not going to tell you how much life's left in it, but I can tell you, well, it's 15 years old and the life expectancy, the service life is around 20. And so I will tell you that. Now, that's up to you to decide if it's a big deal to you or not, because there's a lot of people that, well, that's okay, no big deal. My uncle's a roofer. So there's a lot of things that might be a big deal to you, but it's not a big deal to somebody else. So I keep my opinion out of it, because one thing I have noticed with a lot of inspectors is they put their opinions in there and they scare people off perfectly good houses because they don't really understand, if something's majorly wrong or it's not. So I keep my opinion out of it.
I love it because honestly, once again, the home inspector's here to give you an unbiased opinion, and the minute you start mixing in that opinion with the house, we see a lot of deals just go south because the buyer, his or herself, gets scared. And there's a lot of things that go on in houses, but the majority of it, and maybe this is what you would say as well, is cosmetic, and it's not as big as of a deal as it may seem in that moment.
What I have found is there's really not really expensive repairs, unless it's something structural or a complete roof has to be redone, or like I say, or a major sewer line. Most of the time it's, a conglomerate of small things that aren't really expensive, they're annoying. And I see more deals fall apart, like we talked about earlier, over just an ego of people not wanting to repair them versus the actual price and what it costs to repair. They're not that big of a deal. And then if the seller doesn't want to repair them, it's not an expensive fix for the buyer. Most of the stuff is super simple, and you can do most repairs off of Google. You can build this entire house.
I love it. And like Mark was telling me, he mentioned that we were talking earlier, honestly, it's the agent's job and responsibility to coach you. As a real estate agent, you want a professional that's on your team that's saying, hey, honestly, that chip tile is not that big of a deal, as opposed to, hey, we should really make sure we're looking at this house for, let's say, something like a sewer line, saying, and recommending to have those inspections done, as opposed to looking at the minuscule things of the house, because every house has been lived in. And if it hasn't been lived in, it's new construction, you should probably still get a home inspection.
Because you don't know, it might be new construction, but that doesn't mean it was installed correctly. I've seen lots of roofs where the flashing isn't correct on brand new homes. So there's a lot of stuff, and I've seen sewer lines. People don't think, well, to scope a sewer line on a brand new house. There's stuff in the sewer line, there's concrete. There's out to the road where it goes to the tap, where it's got brand new road that wasn't compressed completely, so they've had the heavy trucks going by, and I've seen sewer lines that are compressed on a brand new house, and people don't think of that because that stuff hasn't had a chance to fully settle, so the sewer lines are still, getting, because they're building usually, dozens of homes in an area. Right. You've got concrete trucks going over these sewer lines all the time. And so I've seen brand new with sewer lines compacted.
And that just led into the next question is, would you have a home inspection on a brand new home?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree as well. That would be something that if your realtor's not recommending that, I would question that, because that's really important. Because like Mark was saying, there's a lot of things that can happen, because these homes, they're just trying to stack them as quick as they can to get them sold to you as a consumer.
But on new construction, one thing you have is most new construction doesn't use the same contractors all the time. They use the ones that are the least expensive and available at the time they need it done. So you don't have the same contractor doing all the roofs. On some of them you might, but most of the time it's a conglomerate, again, there's that word, of contractors throughout that are the least priced and availability. Right. So that's what you have to watch out to.
We're gonna jump to another question here. Meth tests and radon. That's something that's kind of been a popular thing, and everyone knows someone that's had a house that's failed to a meth test. Obviously meth test is important, but is it easy to mediate and take care of?
There's only one insurance company for errors emissions insurance or anything like that home inspectors should have, that most don't. Make sure that if you do get one, they are fully insured all the way around, but they don't insure meth tests. And the reason why is because they're not reliable. And the way people understand a meth test is, I won't do anything, charge somebody for something that I don't believe in. And so the way a meth test works is you get a template that's 100 centimeters square. So basically a foot by a foot. You get 3 of those. And then what they do, they test them, they take that template, they put it on a wall in your house, they take a Q-tip and they go this way and they go this way, and they drop the Q-tip in a bag and they send it off to get analyzed. In your house, on a standard, say 2,000 square foot house, imagine how much wall space. So you probably have 15,000 square feet of wall space or more, and you're getting 3 square feet of it tested. You're not getting a lot of your house tested that way. Right. And they're notorious for false negatives and false positives. Somebody asked me about a meth test, even though, you know, I'm giving money away because I won't do them. I don't believe in the way we do them. Is if you want a meth test, you have a full meth company come over and do their test. It's going to cost you more money, but if you really want it done correctly, you have them do it. Don't have a home inspector do it. I'm sorry to say that, but that's true.
So really quick, I want to backtrack back to June. You and I were at a house doing a home inspection, and the buyer noticed what he thought would be mold. And we were kind of going, it's not mold, but this buyer was really set on it. Long story short, came back and it wasn't mold, but there's these little spots. So let's address that, because you do focus on you know, mold testing as well. So what would you tell like a general consumer if you're looking at a house and they're a little bit worried about mold? What are some of the quick tricks?
Well, first of all, as far as mold, like you said, you have to have a water source. To fix mold, to remedy mold, you have to first take care of the water leak. Right. Doesn't do you any good to try to kill it. But mold, it's kind of crazy. If you look at the CDC, the EPA, you look at anything, that's not my words. I mean, I've done the research on all this stuff. You look it up, there is no set safety standard for mold. The CDC doesn't have a safe level for mold. They have a deal, the CDC says, well, all mold could be harmful. The EPA has no statement at all that any mold is harmful, and mold affects people differently. So if you put a healthy person in a house that has mold in it, that doesn't mean that person's gonna get sick at all. You put somebody in a house that could be allergic to mold, now you have a problem. So, but that's allergic to anything. And so they say, you know, it might affect kids or something like that more, but you can read all the way through, look up, Google it right now, whoever's watching, you look up under the mold, and there is no set standards for safety levels on mold.
And I love it, because once again, like, these are some of the common terms that we're hearing all the time that are scaring buyers from homes that we sell, or for buyers that we're helping move into their new home. And so these are some general questions that we've gotten asked by consumers, past clients. We're gonna jump into one more thing, because I don't wanna leave the home sellers behind. Most of these questions are for buyers, but one of the major things when I go and talk to a seller about selling their home, they ask, should I get an inspection before I list my home? And me personally, I say, no, because it really doesn't benefit you much. Is sell it as is, because it might not be, like the deck outside that's missing a railing might not be important to your buyer. So don't go invest money, but wait until the inspection comes. What would you say to a seller that asks you the same question? Like, should I have an inspection before I sell my home?
Now, obviously my answer is completely on the other side of the scale, is I say absolutely have one. And here's why I say that, is even though, yeah, you've got all the faith in your home, but you want to be able to present that home to a buyer. And what I tell people to do when you get a pre-listing inspection, get a sewer scope done, get a radon test done. Those are the three major things that people are looking at. Home insurance wise, home insurance claims, make sure you check with your home insurance provider because most of them do not cover the main sewer line. That's additional rider, and that's one of the highest claims they have is sewer lines. What I tell people to do is if you get in there and you present your house and say it all checks out, you do a sewer scope, it's fine. You do the radon, levels are great. You do the inspection. Yeah, you find one or two things, and then if you want to, it doesn't mean just because you find them, doesn't mean you have to fix them. If it's something major that could come back and be a deal killer, a contract killer down, in a week, yeah, that's something you're gonna want to take care of. But if you've got some outlets that don't work, or backwards or, small stuff, yeah, that kind of stuff, I don't fix.
Yeah, and to kind of recap, what I say is hey, the railing on the deck, that, things like that. I would definitely recommend getting your sewer scoped as well as making sure some of the major things are being fixed because like Mark said, that's super important and it's better to know what's around the corner as opposed to...
Surprises aren't surprises if you know about them.
If you know about them.
And what that allows you to do is you can do that. And now, so now everything comes in there. So now as you're presenting this on the MLS, not only you can put it in there and say, a absolute full home inspection, pre-listing home inspection has been done to that. So you can get in there, it gives you an opportunity to get in there and get all that stuff taken care of. Because now, why wait till you're under contract on a home and you have a 2-week due diligence time frame and they go through there and they do the inspection, take time doing it, to find out on the 12th day that they want to cancel because you can't come to terms on a repair.
Right.
So this, you've already got it done, you send it to them, it makes your house more presentable because now, on the buyer side of it, now the inspection's done. You can send it to them, offer them, hey, you can have your own done if you want to, but here's one that we've had done by Home Inspectors for Utah. That's awesome. We've had all this stuff looked at. We've got sewer scopes, we've got video for all this, and you can look at this. If you decide, yep, everything looks good, anything that repairs are made, you've got invoices for the repairs done. Now, they can go right off the next day, order the appraisal.
Something that Home Inspectors for Utah does for their clients is they do a video of the thing that they're reporting on. So
lots of videos.
If there is, and video to me, as you guys already know, video is key because we as consumers are going to YouTube and to Google and looking at things. So once again, video is key and it really helps open up the eyes of people that are, selling their homes or people that are buying it. So, and Mark, did you have anything else you want to add to the video?
Well, the nice thing about having a home inspector, whether it me or somebody else, make sure they are certified. Not the company they work for is certified. Make sure that inspector themselves are certified and fully insured.
Awesome. Well, Mark has provided us some awesome content today and really just general knowledge of things that you as a consumer and myself, I was surprised with a few things I learned as well. Honestly, it is important to have a great certified inspector on your team. And if you are a consumer looking to have a home inspection here in Utah, I highly recommend Mark. Agents, if you're looking to add a valuable person to your team to help your clients, I would recommend Mark as well. So this is Mark, his information's below. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him, or I'd love to take your call as well and help out in any way that I can. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.